You say you're fine, but I can see right through. You're holding your secrets for way too long. This can't keep going on. With every lie, they keep on hurting you, getting away with everything they do. This can't keep going on. No, we're gonna find them, and I'm gonna fight for you. They better start hiding. We'll be running with the lions, lions. We'll be running with the lions, lions. They can't run, they can't hide. We won't stop until they're down. We'll be running with the lions, lions.
Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Welcome to another episode of Gloves Off. I'm your host, Dr. Kalpana Sundar, and every week at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, we are here doing our show. So for those of you who are new, Gloves Off is a show, but it's not just a show. It's a space for bold disruption, a place where we really discuss outdated paradigms, and we talk about things with unapologetic clarity. So it's also a place where strategy meets soul, where leaders come to speak without their masks, and people are not sugarcoating anything on this show, and that's probably what makes it so much fun for me. I think that we have a lot of sugarcoating in our society, and we really don't tell the truth most of the time, and frankly, I'm fed up with it. I have always said that I prefer the ugly truth to pretty lies, and I think that's kind of why I do this show every week. So today, I'm really excited to interview our guest because he is a former nurse. His name is Eric Ayers, and we're going to get into a very interesting conversation. We were introduced by somebody else I had interviewed on the show, Dustin Dean. I was probably, it's probably been about a month now, time flies. And he introduced me to Eric and said, I think you guys have some real great synergies. And that's really how it goes on this show. Somebody amazing introduces me to somebody else amazing. And then, it just grows. And I love it. The platform has really grown a lot. So Eric has actually created something called SimRx. It's a framework that puts humans back at the center of healthcare. So that's really important because, sometimes we're just so focused on rules and things and we don't focus on what's really broken. And I'm really excited to get into this conversation and understand more about what Eric is doing because the healthcare industry is very broken. And I know you guys have heard me say this before. So, we're going to be deep diving into that conversation. But before we do that, obviously, I want to introduce our sponsor, Jeremy Meineke. I had interviewed him last couple of weeks ago. No, it was just last week. Goodness, time is really just flying a little faster than I can keep up with it. He is obviously a fitness professional, personal trainer. He will help you get your summer body back if you've somehow lost it and would like to find it before the fall shows up. So he will set you up with not only your workout routine, but also your meal plan and everything. So it's great because you don't have to worry about a thing. You just kind of follow the protocol. And then, of course, I've got to do a shameless plug because it's my show and I get to do that. So this is the QR code to subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. I have a lot of content on this channel. I also have a kind of a little bit of a surprise that's coming actually next week. We're doing kind of a special episode of Gloves Off, and I'm not going to tell you. Well, all right, I'm going to tell you a little bit. It's called Gloves Off After Dark, and we're going to be talking about some spicier content than even what we do on this show. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, you're going to want to do that because I may decide to make it a regular thing. You have to subscribe so you'll find out and be in the know about all the details. So I would say that, this conversation is going to be interesting. We're going to unpack a lot because, like I said before, the healthcare system is broken, in my opinion. And I can't wait to talk to Eric about what he thinks because now you've got a former nurse and a former doctor together talking about healthcare. So who knows what we're going to say? So without any further ado, let's bring Eric on. Hello, Eric. Welcome to Gloves Off.
Hello, thank you for having me here. This is amazing. I'm excited.
Well, I'm excited. Listen, I saw you dancing backstage. I was like, this guy is really into this. This is awesome.
Yeah, the music was just hitting me, and talking about the lion, and it was like, all right, let's do this. So yeah, I'm pumped.
I love it. I love it. I love your energy. So I love how the universe just connects people. You meet one person, then you meet another. And I just love it because now I just know so many people because of this show. It's probably one of my favorite reasons I do it, not only to have these conversations, but, I have met all kinds of amazing people all over the country, all over the world, just because I do this show. I mean, it's pretty fantastic. I have to say, I feel very blessed.
Absolutely. And that's the power of human connection, because one connection after another, and it's all of these synergies, it's all of these shared values that it keeps igniting these sparks, and it keeps moving us along. So again, I'm excited that Dustin introduced us, and yeah, super stoked to be here.
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited too. So I don't even know where to begin because I feel like we probably talk for 3 hours and not really cover everything we want to start with. But
for sure,
maybe let's just start when you were a nurse and what was that like? And maybe just maybe what are the things in your nursing career that led you to where you are today? I feel like that's a really good place to start.
Yeah, and I agree. Great place to start. Huge story. So let's unpack this a little bit. I'm still a nurse. I no longer work at bedside, but working on education from the outside. And so when I started like most healthcare professionals. I wanted to help people, right? And at the time, it was like I could go to med school, but I didn't want to go to school that long. So I'm like, okay, what else can I do in nursing? I had an amazing nurse when I was 16 who in diabetic clinic one day was like, hey, Mom, why don't you step out? I'm going to talk to Eric by himself for a little bit. And she was raw and real and set me up for success. And I was like, wait a minute, this is amazing. So I've worked with her over the years, and so got to pay that forward a little bit. And that was the first seed of, I think this is what I want to do. So I went into pediatric emergency nursing. I love working with kids. They're just so fun. And, but like 10 years in, I realized I'm maxed out on what I can do as a nurse. All my skills, I'm like, oh, I'm solid on these. What's next? And I find myself looking in the mirror, going to, who knows how many night shifts in a row this is. And I walk past the mirror and I'm like, who are you? Did not recognize myself. And I'm like, I was the burned out nurse, right? Everything, all of the emotions that I had been avoiding, the separation that, so like I would pride myself on being in a code, for example, and being able to detach emotionally from the situation. But I didn't realize it until around this time that I can't turn that on and off. I just always detach. So I wasn't feeling, and I was angry. And so my wife gave me a big hug out the door and it's like, hey, look for something good at work tonight because it's there. You just have to find it. And I was like, you're crazy. Okay, whatever. So that night I go in and I hear her voice as I'm about to walk in this patient's room. And I was like, fine, I'll look for something good, right? What am I going to find? I found this 4-year-old patient with Down syndrome who was so sick, and all she could give me was this emotion. And I was like, what? I don't know what it is, but it's good. And then her dad started talking to me and started giving me the same goodness, energy, emotion. I had no idea what it was, but I knew it was good. And I kept looking for that. And ultimately that shifted everything because I started looking for things that were opposite of what I was finding. So before I would hop in and I would be like, I don't want this. I don't want that. And my mind was going to, all right, this is the focus. I had no idea that what we focus on, we get, even if it's what we don't want. And that was the start. So I'm going to pause there because, that's 10 years
Yeah. Condensed into like,
condensed into a little
yeah.
package.
Well, there is a lot there that we can talk about. So I'm glad you paused because I had so many things I wanted to say. So I'm going to start with, yes, of course you're still a nurse, just like I'm still a doctor. We don't practice in the same way that we used to. And we have both. What I loved about the conversation I had with you before before we, had this show scheduled and all that was I heard so many similarities, again, in your story and mine. Even now I'm reliving it, that, you're just using your skills in a different way. And you also mentioned that you weren't really utilizing all your skills in the way that you wanted to. I felt very much the same way. And yet it's a hard thing to explain to people, because when you tell them that, they're like, oh my God, you're so accomplished. Because you're also an MBA, right?
Correct. Yes.
So, right there, people are like, oh, you got all these degrees. And like, what do you mean you can't, it flusters everybody. I felt that. And so they're like, people just say to me, you're a sports certified surgeon and, you have your own practice, you have your own med spa, you have all these things going on. How could you be dissatisfied? But I was, because it still wasn't utilizing all my skill sets. So I started to obnoxiously say to people, well, it might be all the skill sets some people have, but it's not all the skills I have. It
Nice.
is what it is, but but it's so true. And, people don't understand that, and we can't minimize that because every person's journey is very different. And I also like what you said about how you didn't recognize yourself because you were detaching from your emotions. I feel, just from the underlying space where medicine is, I feel like they break human beings. You almost have to break them, but they don't build you back up in the right way. So I felt broken after my training. As a human being, I was very accomplished. I had all these degrees on the wall, but I felt so broken as a human being.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's because the system is not built with humans in mind. So the system is made to create the output needed, whether that's patient safety, patient care, and all of that is needed. But the human element, we work in a human service industry. The human has been removed. And so we work in a service industry. I'm not even going to break down the word of service into that context, but this leads into this brokenness that you speak of. And that's what I didn't know it, but I knew it. I couldn't put words to it. And that's what I recognized was the system was misaligned, and I was trying to force myself into a misaligned system instead of being like, wait a minute, why don't I be me and let me heal the system from within? And that's how things started to shift. But I had no idea I was doing this. I love what you said about you weren't using your full skill set. Like the actual words that you said, I didn't realize that. I just knew that I wasn't on purpose. Like I wasn't aligned with my purpose. And part of that was the quote behind me. It's attributed to Einstein. So everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's going to spend its whole life thinking it's an idiot. So if we're pouring ourselves into something that is not our attributes and it's not what we were born to do, of course we're going to burn out. And of course we're going to be unworthy. And of course we're not going to be good enough because we're trying to do something that someone else is good at.
Yeah.
And once we realize that and we're like, no, you do that. I'm going to step over here into my gifts. All of a sudden you don't work anymore and you just be, and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. You feel a light come on and you can't explain this to people.
Nope.
It's like an internal revelation, and that's what happened. And so the way that my wife flipped my perspective simply and profoundly by saying, look for something good, I started doing that to everyone. So we work in a pediatric hospital where like the most amazing human beings come to get cared for and cared on. And that's what the focus should be, not the, I'm working this is my fifth 12-hour shift in a row. And all of these, awesome. You're working a fifth 12-hour shift in a row. Awesome. Your health is good enough. You can be here. You're able to bring forth your genius into this world. And like, let's connect with humans. And that's the basis of like the whole SimRx idea is bringing the human element back in and then we can throw in some education to hide the woo-woo aspect of it.
Well, we can talk woo. I love woo.
Yeah. Yeah. I do too. It's not generally received in Western medicine.
It is on this show. I talk woo a lot on this show. So you're fine. Talk woo.
Perfect. Because that's the next stage, because it's interesting how life is our curriculum. And so Wayne Dyer would always say, like, our life is our curriculum to God. And in whatever word you want to put in there, universe, God, Krishna, whatever, the energy, the creative aspect of who you are, our lived experience becomes our curriculum. So after this, I'm on cloud 9. I'm screaming from the rooftop, like, ultimately flip your perspectives. Like, there's amazingness out here. Stop looking for the bad and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden I'm hit with this illness that is debilitating. And I hit it for like 2 months. And then finally I couldn't, and told my wife about it. And we went through every Western medical aspect and started looking outside of the box, looking at other doctors that could potentially help me. And I could not find relief. And this lasted a year, this whole journey. And I shifted and started looking into Eastern medicine. I started looking into nutrition, and nutrition was my gateway. I'm reliving this. Nutrition was my gateway into everything that changed in my life. It introduced me to a new way to be a husband, a new way to live in the world, a new understanding of what we consume actually is what we're able to give, and like completely shifted everything. And of course, when things are working for us, we tell everyone, and we're not like, oh, maybe you should do. No, it's like, I'm doing this. It's amazing. You should do this. Go do this. And then people are like, I don't know who you are, and I don't want to have anything to do with that. So after a while, learning to tame that and being, and the importance of asking questions and allowing people to ask you questions. So I was introduced to empowering through this whole process.
I love that. And, I could see it, because I could see you you're so excited, know? So then you're just like, oh my God, I'm doing this thing. You've got to do it too.
Yeah.
And people are like, whoa, that's a lot of intensity. I kind of can't handle that. So back off.
Back. Yeah. No.
Back off. No, but I think it's amazing that, well, one thing I can tell you that so many people that I've interviewed, when they are out of alignment with their purpose, there's not just you and me too. I had cancer. I don't know if I even told you that, or I had thyroid cancer early on in my medical career. So I just started my practice. I had thyroid cancer, almost died. And, it was like a whole thing, and then I just buried the trauma and just moved on, and then 10 years later it resurfaces. So, we're not healthy in medicine. This is how we think we're supposed to handle things. So that being said, I don't think it's a coincidence that people who are not living their purpose or living in their utmost of joy wind up getting sick in some way. Mm-hmm. Often that sickness, though, prompts some sort of big revelation for the ones who choose to awaken because of it. I mean, I kind of just shoved away because I was like, I'm busy. I don't have time for this. But later I did use this information to awaken and learn more about myself. So I think that it is very important to look at that aspect of things, because there is always a psychological and a spiritual aspect of why things happen. Mm-hmm. And I think that if that never happened to me, I may not have thought about it so much. And then let's just go full on woo woo.
Let's go.
Let's just do it. But I do believe that when you don't see it, the universe does kind of provide you with some messengers. I don't know, maybe you saw it a lot faster than I did. It took me 10 years. So I realized after looking back, those really sent some messengers. The most potent messenger came in the form of an artist. He's in the dedication of my book. He's an older gentleman who I met, and he had hoarseness. So I met him, and I loved his artwork. It was in Asheville, North Carolina, and Jonas Gerard. I was like, I had to think about his name for a second. So Jonas Gerard, and he was hoarse. And I said, I hear that you're hoarse. Did you have some sort of problem with your vocal cord? Yeah, I had cancer of my vocal cord, but I never smoked. And I'm like, oh God, it happens, but it's, it's more unusual. He's like, yeah, he goes, it's because I wasn't living my purpose and I wasn't speaking my truth. And that's the 5th chakra. And that's why it happened. It's like, what the hell is this guy even talking about? You know, I never heard of any of these things. I was like, it's like he thinks that cancer is related to something called a chakra. And what the hell is that even? I kind of had heard of it because I am Indian. So I'm like, oh, I don't know. Anyway, I started looking into that. But when he said it, my body just felt it as truth. See, that's the difference. Like truth has a frequency and it lands differently. It wasn't like he was just saying something. I could have just thought he was a crazy old man, but it landed. And I thought, I don't think I'm living my truth. I don't think I'm speaking my truth. And that's what I've spent the last 20 years of my life doing now since then.
That's, first of all, I could feel that story as you were saying that. So thank you for sharing that. That is incredible. And I love Asheville, North Carolina. So the fact that that happened, like I'm embodying this experience with you. So thank you.
Yeah. So it's just like, I think, then you had your experience. Now, how did that experience change you afterwards? Now you're not just looking for the bad, you're looking for the good. But in what other ways would you say that it impacted your life and your purpose?
And I appreciate this question because a lot of times we get trapped in our stories, and I love going through the story as long as we're saying what came from this. What action did we take? So like, our emotions it's our energy and motion. So what energy and motion did you take this story into? How did you transmute it? So I appreciate that. So ultimately, like the shift started happening everywhere. I can't create a timeline of what happened first, but every aspect of my being, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it shifted. I dropped weight so easy, just excess weight that I've been holding on to that, we'll go into the spiritual realm of
spiritual armor.
Yeah. So I was trying to protect something that didn't need protecting anymore. So it shed super easy. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I started realigning with my 5-year-old self, and I started bringing fun. And all of a sudden, for 10 years, I've been trying to climb this corporate ladder, whatever that is, because I hadn't been able to. And all of a sudden I started climbing it and I wasn't trying anymore. And people started asking me to do things, and the things that they were asking me to do were the things that I was really good at and I loved. And so it wasn't extra work. It was, hell yeah, let's do this. And so that's what started. I started shifting everything, and I started questioning and becoming curious about my thoughts. And the first thing I remember doing is, in terms of what I was feeding myself, is what am I listening to? And I shifted every day to work. I shifted what I was doing, and I changed. And it started off with Wayne Dyer, and then it went to Joe Dispenza, Bob Proctor, Napoleon Hill. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I started walking into work with how may I serve instead of, oh God, another night shift. Right. And it's like, how may I serve? And as I did that, I wasn't working anymore. And here is another key concept to the book is I was so competent in my work. I wasn't thinking about it anymore. And I was able to provide human connection to patients. And I learned this through a physician who we were running a code on an 8-year-old, and the physician, who I respect tremendously, was doing chest compressions, which most physicians in these situations are providing orders and doing the administrative aspect of that. And I look up, and he is providing emotional support to the family that's in the room. And it hit me that if we actually are competent, we have the ability to provide human-centered support to those around us, including our patient. And that's what's missing. And I was grieving at that point because I spent 10 years not providing human connection in something that, like, I missed out for 10 years. And I'm like, okay, I have this newfound understanding. We have to shift this. And so that led into, cool, where can I make these connections? Because, like, I know the job so well. Let's keep knowing the job, and let's keep expanding into, like, how do we make situations the best that they can? And this nurse came to me one night, like an experienced nurse. I was charge nurse that night, and I was working part-time simulation, part-time night shift emergency room charge nurse. And she was like, Eric, do we have anything that I can practice accessing a port before I go in and do this this order on this kid. And I'm like, no, we actually don't. And I don't know why we don't. So we spent 30 minutes getting the policy, the guidelines, going through that. And then we went in, she did it. And in the ER, we're like MacGyvers. We scrapple and we get everything done. And then in a week, we had our first prototype of our SimRx kit of this port access. It was in a sandwich box of expired ports that were being thrown away by Central Supply. And I put it underneath a fake piece of a simulation skin. And we printed off some quick, this is how you do it. And then did a video of me doing this for it was like 3 or 4 minute video. And then I took it to that nurse and I was like, hey, now we have it. And cool thing is, after that, she came back and she told me I did it again after practicing. And the patient was like, hey, do you work in the HEMOC clinic? You have to, because that was perfect. And that's what competency gives us, is experience between two humans to say, I gave you my best and you received it. And the care on both sides was phenomenal. So that was the seed to the bigger picture of what came to be SimRx.
I love that. Oh, that's amazing. And I love it because you're able to see what's needed in the system that isn't there. And now you're in a space where you can actually create because you're already competent in what you do.
Correct.
And
we didn't need permission. We didn't need permission.
I love that.
We weren't breaking rules. We weren't waiting for anyone. We were like, this is what we need. And it's ultimately like, you want to learn how to ride a bicycle? Here's the bicycle. And it's going to stay there. You can go back and learn to ride and dust off the rust and rewrite it whenever you want. We just have to build the bicycle first. And after that, we can rinse and repeat as many times as we want.
I love it. I love it. Now, and you mentioned a book.
Yes.
Your book. Let's talk about that.
Yes. So it was published, I think, a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago. And this has been 8 years in the making of, yes. So it's SimRx, Transforming Healthcare and Leadership and Culture by Design. And the key part of this is design. So the system that we're speaking of, we walk into, right? As a physician, as a nurse, we walk into these systems that are already created. But who designed them and when were they designed and why were they designed? They weren't designed for, just like our education system, they were designed in the Industrial Revolution. They weren't designed for now. Why don't we flip that? And why don't we actually provide education that's needed instead of just required? And so ultimately it's a roadmap. It's a blueprint of how do we get from creating a group of people that want to own their education and self-learning all the way to a full culture that not only supports it, but they expect it. And when new technology comes in, they're already set up to say, oh yeah, we can handle that and we can move forward. Because right now, nursing education specifically is still done a lot in a classroom. It's done in a simulation room as well, but it's in a room. And it's in a space, and just like our education state right now, like you have to go somewhere, you have to sit, you have to listen, take tests, back and forth. Well, what if we shifted that and we had these SimRx kits for just-in-time training that we can polish up and we can make sure that we are solid on this? And then there's an expansion to this that I can get to if we want. But then as we build these are like small building blocks. And as we do these and the people who are using them become comfortable with them and they start not only using them and demanding them, but building themselves, which is what we found. Nurses would be like, oh my gosh, we need a kit for fill in the blank. Cool. Right. You want to do that? Oh, can I? And all of a sudden I don't have to try to get people to buy in because they just enrolled themselves, which says that they're engaged, which says that they're bought in and they're going to run with this. And if it doesn't work, they're going to be like, oh my God, that sucked. I got to fix it. Not told you it wasn't going to work. And it shifts this total. So this is a huge perspective shift. But when we do that, we take these little building blocks. When we get to a certain point and we cross that chasm, in the law of innovation, that innovation curve,
right?
Once we cross that chasm, all of a sudden now we're ready for VR, AR, XR, and MR, because now we have people
What
who know.
What are VR,
Oh,
AR?
yeah. So now we're ready for virtual reality learning,
okay.
augmented reality, extended reality, and mixed reality.
Okay.
So all the places that we are trying to get to, but it's like a Grand Canyon jump. It's like over here we have this legacy classroom style education, but yet we're like, oh, but look at the virtual reality can bring in emotional aspects in it, and it most certainly can. But how do you bridge the gap? And that's what I'm proposing through SimRx, is bridging that gap to set us up to a place where education is what it needs to be, which is true learning into true competency. So therefore we can bring the human element back in.
I love that. That is just amazing. And it's, it's interesting because just right now talking to you, clearly you don't even seem like somebody who would have ever been burnt out. You can't even see it in you. And, and again, because you light up as you're talking about these things. And, I've often wondered with burnout too, when I was going through it myself, I thought, is it just that I just working too? I mean, that was part of it. I was working more hours than I should have been working, clearly. I just had no time off and no just downtime in my brain ever. It was always this, and too much go. So that was definitely a part of it. But to be honest, I think a bigger part of it was although I was a surgeon and I loved what I did, it got very routine after 20 something years and it wasn't really challenging me anymore. And I'm a person that thrives. I think everybody's different, but I need new challenges to be entertained. I just do. I like challenging myself. I like doing different things. And I just had to do something different. So for me, I love the medicine aspect, but I love the combined business of medicine aspect way more. I found that more intriguing, and I just really enjoyed it. And I couldn't talk to anybody about that because no doctors wanted to talk about business. They only wanted to talk about medicine. But I love talking about the business of medicine, which obviously explains why I do what I do now.
Right. Absolutely. And that's a huge thing, because that is living in misalignment. Right. Because it's not the full potential of who you're meant to be. And it's crucial that we find that, but it's also crucial to give ourselves permission to feel in the space that we're not living up to that. Because we're learning as we go, and maybe we're not ready for that full capacity, but through the journey, all of a sudden, the doors open the journey opens up as you walk through it. Like, it doesn't illuminate and say, this is the way. No, the way lights as you walk.
True. And every step becomes a little more obvious, but I think you have to just take that first step. And often it feels like it's into the darkness. I mean, that's how I felt. I mean, when I left medicine, I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to do, but I don't want to see any more patients. I just don't. I know that sounds awful. It's not that I hate people. It's not that. I just really was done with that part of my life. And I just I wanted some different things, and I wanted more variety in how I lived my life and my day, and a little more freedom. And then I was able to just craft my life around how I wanted to live. And that way for me, I don't know if it's the same for everybody. I felt I could assure that I would not burn out.
Yeah.
Because I knew the things that were really important to me. I knew what I wanted my life to look like. So I created everything around that. And that's what I actually help practitioners do, to figure out how you want to live first and then create your business around it, not the other way around.
Oh, so many rabbit holes we can go in here. I love this concept, and you're 100% correct. And this is what I mean by design. So we have the ability to design everything we want within our life. And there's a really cool YouTube audio on the backwards law, and it's living from the end. So you picture this, it's manifestation at its core. You picture and you build and you draw what you want. And then it's working backwards to say, all right, what are the steps I took to get there? Because if we're dreaming of something, that's innate in us. Like, that is our God-given right of imagining our world.
Our soul speaking.
Yes.
When we have a dream, that is our soul speaking.
Yes. And when we have an idea of, oh my gosh, I shouldn't do this or I shouldn't do that. That's circumstances. But if we have a dream of what we want, that's us. And
100%.
that is our voice. And that is very interesting because, something that two very important design things that happen that were introduced to me. The first was design thinking. And I was given the opportunity it was like early on during this transition in healthcare. My CNO at the time put me into this group of 25 people to do design thinking. I had no idea what design thinking was, never heard of it, but I was like, cool, let's try it. Within 10 minutes, I felt like I was a kid again, and I was able to play at work. And I was like, this is awesome because it gave words to the way that I think and the way that I problem solve. And it allowed me later to realize that these systems that we were talking about, they're misaligned because we're innovating the systems, not the people. And so part of what I do, this is my value proposition, is I bring the human back into the innovation. And they're at the center of it because we can look at them from a human resource standpoint as part of the system, but they are also affected by it. And our emotions are going to drive us into, are we going to be a part of this? Or are we going to make it difficult? So human design from an innovation side is actually something that I still do. And I do innovative training, and it's human-centered innovation. And I freaking love it. I feel like I'm in a sandbox every time, and I'm like asking everyone to come, build sandcastles in the sandbox. Every time I do it, it's amazing. And the other thing is more woo, and it's human design.
I love human design.
Oh,
what gosh. Are you?
Man, so I'm an emotional generator. I'm a 1-3.
Oh, okay.
And the 1-3, ultimately, for those who don't know, if you knew my life and you heard 1-3 and you knew what it was, you'd be like, oh, hell yeah, that's spot on, because I'm a gatherer of knowledge. And this is the scientific aspect of, I have to know all the details, and I have notebooks of just stuff that I never review again. I just have to have it all. And then I have to try until I figure it out. So Thomas Edison, I have to keep trying until I figure it out. And then I'm like, oh, that's how you don't do it. And I keep going. But the important thing that I figured out, and it hit me like, it slapped me in the face, was I spent so much time disassociated with my emotions, but my true self, I feel everything, and I make decisions based on my feeling. For 10 years, close to 10 years, I was not feeling. So how was I going to make a decision that was based on my alignment?
Wow. So true.
Yes. And so I'm like, oh, cool. So that's pretty important.
It's super important. And, it really, for any of you out there who are watching this, and if you haven't checked out human design, yes, let's go totally woo here, but it's been around a long time. I don't even remember when it's something that's been around a lot longer than I thought. Yes. But when I saw human design, I've done a bazillion personality tests, and I would say some things are explained, but human design was the thing that most closely explained how I work. It's almost like it knew my blueprint. And I am a manifesting generator. So I can manifest, and and then I'm like, why is it taking everybody else so long to do these things? Like, I don't even understand that, because my world doesn't work like that. Right. So I'm a manifesting generator. So I think of something, I get it going, and boom, it's happening. That's how I operate. My things are that I can't, frustration is like a not self, or I can't remember all the.
That's it. Spot on.
Yeah. So anyway, I can't get frustrated. I can't. So if I get frustrated, I'm done. I'm out. I'm out of commission the rest of the day, maybe even for 2 or 3, depending on how frustrated I got. Well, I didn't understand this in human design aspects, but I just knew that this kept repeatedly happening. And I said, you know what? I've got to get somebody to start handling the things that frustrate me, because there are people who know how to do these things, and they do it better than me. So slowly but surely, I started to just outsource all the things that frustrate the crap out of me. So now I preserve that. I do not get frustrated anymore. And now my capacity to produce, I would say, has grown exponentially, because I guard against frustration. If I even start to get frustrated, I kind of figure out where I can push this off to, because I can't. So it's just really, really interesting to know that about yourself. And then also I make decisions based on my gut instincts.
Yep.
So their logic is part of it, of course, but it's gut instinct. And unfortunately, when I was married to a very logical human being, and I wasn't I don't want to say allowed, but it wasn't appreciated. Anything I did by gut. So if I couldn't explain it, it was a problem, it was a real problem. And so these things are important in one's life, because now I can make my gut instinct decisions. And I have to tell you, my gut instincts have never been wrong.
And
logic has screwed me many times.
For sure. Absolutely. And that is so important. Frustration from a generator and a manifesting generator, like identifying it early, gives us the ability to stay in alignment and also say, that is not the path for me. No matter how enticing it looks, this is not for me, because we should stay in flow and we should be water. Right. Mm-hmm. And so anger from a manifestor is like, okay, if I'm angry and I'm a manifestor, like something's going on, I'm manifesting in a totally different way. And then bitterness for a projector. So like all of these telltale signs are very subtle, but if you notice it, as Joe Dispenza says, like we decrease the refractory period, of like thought to response. And sometimes it's 48 hours later, we're like, why did I say that? And then we keep going back to, and then it's 24 hours. When we can get to the point of before we say something and we're like, oh, there's the frustration. And we pause and breathe and let for a minute, breathe out that chemical cocktail and recenter. We're fully aligned. And when we scale this, so this is the beauty of people, because you work with a team of people and you have a mixture of generators, manifestors, manifesting generators, projectors, and these reflectors who take an entire moon cycle to make a decision. We're no longer frustrated anymore, right? Because we're not like, why aren't you making a decision? But now we can put people into specific places to where they shine. And you're like, we need something created. We're going to get the manifestor and manifesting generators involved. Like we need to uplift the energy. We're going to get all the generators in, and we're the batteries, right? Mm-hmm. And so like, let's use these, and the projectors can take this amazing energy and create like these mic drop opportunities that will revolutionize the way we do things, but it has to be in time. It can't be this dictated system of how it was supposed to be. So yeah, all of this interweaves together, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, how many things, I think as we get on to living our life more and just learning about these other things that are out there, because I never knew anything about any of these things at all. I mean, a lot of this I started learning when I moved to California. I mean, they love woo-woo here. So this is like a great place for me. I forget, where are you located again? I forgot.
I'm in East Tennessee, right outside of Knoxville.
Okay, I thought it was somewhere on there, but yeah. I mean, I love woo-woo. I mean, we California folks love woo-woo, so it's a great place for me to be.
There's places my wife and I walk into and we're like, oh, this feels like home. And it's like Asheville, North Carolina is one of those where like, it's just accepted. And it's like, okay, we can be, and we can have whatever discussion we want to have, very similar to this discussion. We can go in whatever direction, and it's okay because we get to be the humans that we are and appreciate and allow one another to simply and profoundly be. And that's what I love.
Well, and there should really be this opportunity to accept people fully for who they are. I feel one of the things that drives me bananas about society right now is that there's this, well, it's getting better, but I would say overall, it's this tendency to conform and have everybody be just like one another. And I was in that, I was really trying to conform, and, deep down inside, I knew I wasn't like other people. And I was like, I don't want to be like, I just want to be me. And I felt I had to be very buttoned up tight in my medical practice. So I had to, I just acted like somebody I wasn't. And let me tell you what that does to you on the inside. Pretending you're something you're not all the time is very exhausting. So I'm a little bit of a jokester. I'm kind of sarcastic. I don't want to be buttoned up and super professional all the time. And that was bothersome. And at some point towards the end, I actually did let that go. And I noticed I enjoyed my work more. I could just joke with my patients and they liked it. And, I would say that has been changing for me over the years, and I'm more and more myself. I appreciate when people are so different, and I love hearing the viewpoints of people who are different. I would say the one thing that for me that rubs me the wrong way is when people are judgmental. Mm-hmm. I went out to dinner with somebody over the weekend, and I know I'm never going to speak with her again because the judgment that came out of her mouth, I was thinking, it's interesting because I know she had been in rehab and she'd done quite a few things in her younger days. And yet I never judged her.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, now, why are you being judgmental when I never judged you? So it just, to me, no, it's not about that. It's about looking at each human being for who they are, accepting, understanding each other's differences, but learning to appreciate them anyway, and learning to even appreciate each other, even when you disagree. Who cares?
Mm-hmm. And learning from them, because there's always something we can learn.
100%. But it shuts it down. If the judgment starts,
Yep.
There's no learning from anybody. It just starts to it's a brick wall. You can't get past that,
Yeah. And that's what happens in those. So I'm thinking of the map of consciousness from David Hawkins, Power versus Force. That's what happens when we're in the lower energy and in the grief and the anything below anger, because we don't have the ability, we don't have the energy to see that other side of the coin. We don't have the ability to see the goodness until someone shows that to us. So all we're doing is judging based on that. If a easy, amazing tool for this is to switch to curiosity. So if you find yourself someone who judges a lot, which I still find myself in that situation, right when you feel it and notice it, if you could say, wait a minute, let's get curious about this. So what do I not know about this? Or what are they trying to say? And, I'll bring Wayne Dyer up again. Be open to everything and attached to nothing. If you can remember that, you're going to learn something. And we can't judge if we're learning because our brain can't. It's almost like we can't be hot and cold at the same time.
Totally. And, judgment in and of itself, and this happens a lot, in our world. I don't even know how we got to judgment, but whatever, we're talking about it. So we're just completed. Like, I don't know, it feels a little off topic, but who cares? Sometimes this is how the show goes. We just talk about all kinds of things. But, the reality is when we're judging somebody, we're not being curious. We're not really understanding all of it, because it may sound like something on one end, but if you really dug deeper, you may actually understand why this person has a viewpoint on this. Our judgments, I think, really come from our experience. So what we have experienced, but we have to understand that the other person we're talking to has a whole nother set of experiences, a whole separate set of upbringing, different culture, different everything. So we are naturally going to differ in opinion on some things. And it's okay. And those are I actually love it when I disagree with somebody, because then it allows me to hear their viewpoint, as long as they're open and not judgmental. I had a conversation with somebody last night, and it was great because, we were just talking about it. We're maybe not 100% agreeing, but it was just such a dynamic conversation. It's actually a boring conversation when you agree on everything. It really is.
Right. Because we innately want to keep learning, and we can't learn if someone knows exactly what we know. Right. And we can't teach if they know what we know. So teaching and learning kind of go side by side. What you revealed, though, to me is empathy. And that's true empathy of when we can see someone who disagrees with us from the lens of, wait a minute, you have a whole different lived experience. And so if you and I were to walk down a street block, and then at the end, we were given something to write with and said, write down your experience, you and I would have two totally different experiences, even though we walked on the same road.
Yep.
There would be similarities of the blue car, the green door, whatever, but we would respond differently to that experience based on our lived experience. And if we can do that on one block, imagine a lifetime of building up. So
that is such a great analogy. I love that.
It's my 5-year-old that comes out that's like, it's totally different.
Well, I love it because I actually could see the 5-year-old in you, obviously, in a very, I love it. I love that because that 5-year-old is what has the joy and the capacity to have this excitement, Yes. I think one thing I'm going to say on joy, because I think it's really important. I used to live my life, and maybe you did too, that, joy was earned, meaning that I had to get all the things done first, and then the joy was earned. I don't know. I think that's something they teach you in your medical profession, or I don't know where I got it, but that's how I live my life. Well, you know how I wake up every day now? I'm like, what would be joyful for me today? Forget all the crap I have to do. Whatever, I'll get all that done too. But let me focus on the thing that's going to bring me joy today. So I think about what that is. And it could just be one thing a day. And I usually make sure it's one thing a day. It doesn't have to be exotic. It's not like I have to run off to Hawaii. I mean, sometimes it's just going to my favorite coffee shop and grabbing a cup of coffee. Sometimes it's doing a walk. Sometimes it's getting together with a friend, whatever. But just make sure you have a little bit of joy in your life every day. And I just wake up and think, what's the joy today? I wake up and think that every day, and it changed my life.
That's amazing. Yeah. And to your point, it doesn't have to be something huge. It doesn't have to be spectacular. It can be the taste of coffee. It can be whatever, a conversation with someone, or the fact that you're doing something that you put off for two weeks and you're like, I'm doing the thing today. Right.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that.
It is very powerful. And I don't know where I learned it, but it was probably, there's a lot of stuff that we talk about, but joy, there's a movie actually. And it really talks about this. What the heck is it called? It's a kid's cartoon. I can't remember the name of it, but basically it talks about it. It basically had all of our emotions shown in animation, and joy was the thing that we learned to just suppress as we get older. And I remember as I started to realize that my joy was important, our 5-year-old selves.
Yeah.
When we expand on that, our energy and our impact on the world changes too. Because if you're coming from a joyful place, you are literally spreading that joy.
Yes.
People see it. People see the light. I see it all the time that people are impacted by my joy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And this brings in, so the foundation of everything I do is built upon the South African term Ubuntu, literally translating to I am because we are. Now, if we're in a group and everyone's 5-year-old is out and joining, there's joy, and we are expanding this Ubuntu energy between each one of us, and we're all becoming better because of it. And something about 6 months ago that I realized is Ubuntu has a mirror to it, and it's also we are because I am. So I bring value to the group just as much as the group brings value to me. So when we look at this from a cyclical aspect of this almost yin yang of energy continuously exchanging, like we're all connected, we all have that ability. And if we come to the table with joy, if we bring our 5-year-old self and then sit back and say, all right, have fun, everything shifts. And it's like the Tao, like nothing is done, but yet nothing is left undone. And that is the place of just pure amazingness. And I absolutely love that. So that's what I'm thinking right now as you're describing your morning routine.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I have to tell you, this has just been such a great, enjoyable time. I swear I do this show because of moments like this and really all of the other ones too. And it's just so enjoyable for me. I think I bring my 5-year self to the show.
Good. That's awesome.
Because I just do whatever I want. When I was 5, I just said what I wanted.
Exactly.
And I didn't filter. So here I am. I'm doing the same thing as an adult. Thank God. Yeah. Now I'm doing it at 55 and not 5. Yay.
It's awesome though.
So any last minute thoughts that you have since we're getting close to our time here?
A couple of things real quick. Back to the judgment. One thing that kind of stuck out in my mind is we tend to judge ourselves, and we tend to judge things about ourselves. I'm going to challenge you to release those and simply be. There's an amazing book by Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. And it was my introduction to seeing how my emotions affect my physical being. And when we hold on to these emotions, how they affect different organ systems, different aspects of us. So let that go and simply be. Bring that joy with you. And, if you're carrying too much, if you feel like you're carrying too much, if you're trying to change too much, or if you're questioning if you belong here, you're not alone in this, and you do belong here, and we would not be whole without you. So
So true. So true. Beautifully, beautifully said. Well, everybody, I'm so glad that you were here, Eric, to join us today. What an insightful and amazing conversation. All of you guys watching, that's his website there, www.lifebydesign.me. Check him out. Check out his book and a little bit more about him. And I have to say, thank you so much for being here, your honesty and all the amazing things that you shared. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, this was an absolute pleasure. I genuinely appreciate this, and this truly brings joy. So I'm lit up from this. So thank you, and thank you everyone for having me.
Well, again, I'm lit up as well. You have a great rest of the evening, and again, thank you so much for joining us on Gloves Off.
Be well.
Well, everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I thought it was such an insightful episode. He's really got a great energy, the kind of energy that jumps off the screen up at you, which is awesome. Then somebody's really alive and not just going through the motions. So I'm so excited that, we got to do that today. So next week, as I said, we're doing a little special episode called Gloves Off After Dark. I'm going to be hosting that with Joshua Berglund, and you guys are just going to have to wait to see what we talk about. So we will see you next week for another episode next Sunday. Have a great night, everyone.